Welcome back. Raise Your Voice St. Lucia is raising concern for the livelihood of women affected following the closure of the Fisheries Marketing Corporation. Catherine Seeley says, what are they to do now?
As talks and debates continue over the closure of the St. Lucia Fish Marketing Corporation, Raise Your Voice President Catherine Seeley is looking at a different angle of the issue surrounding said closure, an issue which falls directly under her jurisdiction. Seeley has voiced the concerns over the future livelihoods of the women who stand to be greatly affected by the government's decision. Aiming her words particularly at the island's Prime Minister Alan Chasney and the Agriculture Minister Ezekiel Joseph, she said women stand to be at the complete losing end of the spectrum.
Women are the ones suffering from this because coastal villages, women depend on fishing and agriculture. The government of St. Lucia has not taken into consideration the damage that is going to be done to fishers, to farmers, to women, to children, to men and coastal villages when they close down the Fish Marketing Corporation. Who does that? Nobody. The government wants to put in so much money in economic infrastructure that does not show any promise. If all the money they were putting in those things was showing promise, we would have grown by more than 0.6%. If the economy is growing by 0.6%, that means whatever they are doing is not working. So maybe they should go back to the drawing board and look at agriculture and fisheries. We are concerned about this thing, and we are asking Minister Ezekiel Joseph to reopen the dialogue on the closure of the Fish Marketing Corporation and to begin seriously considering handing over the assets of the Fish Marketing Corporation to the fisher folk and to the farmers' cooperatives, because they were already putting systems and things in place to see how they were going to manage it, and then the thing was just cut off from underneath them and the place was closed down.
The Raise Your Voice president also had some choice words of criticism for the fisher folk.
I am disappointed in the fisher folk organization, because by now the fisher folk organization should have been, their voices should have been heard very forcefully on this matter.
Seeley said the government has no right to target and close down some of the long-standing organizations which they have set their sights on, as it was never theirs to do away with. With that said, she indicated that there is an ulterior motive at play.
Right now what the fishermen are doing, they take enough fish, they know they can sell for the day. There's no storage, there's no ice. The government of St. Lucia promised the fisher folk and the farmers' cooperatives that they would transfer the assets of the Fish Marketing Corporation and they would operationalize it, they would sell shares, they would do that. And then the government just decided to take a decision that they would just close down the Fish Marketing Corporation. We have to remember the Fish Marketing Corporation and the assets of the Fish Marketing Corporation were donated by the Japanese government to the fishers. It was not given to the government. The government does not have the legitimate right to decide they're going to sell or transfer the assets. They were custodians, and if they have anything to do, they have to hand it back to the fishermen. And I find this happens quite a lot in St. Lucia. We let us remember Radio St. Lucia, the government printery, the public health assessment for special needs children, the facility that provided assistance to fire victims. I find the coconut vendors, I find what the government is doing is eliminating and erasing indigenous industries that poor people, marginalized people, vulnerable people, coastal villages are profiting from.
Seeley revealed that the fisheries sector contributes over $14 million annually to the island's GDP, and so the industry deserves more respect. The fisher folk, she also said, should demand that respect. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
Innovation is the application of better solutions that meet new requirements and existing market needs. The National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, recognizing the importance that innovation plays to a country's growth and development, is saluting the work of a young inventor who is from the fishing village of Labrie. More in this report from Glenn Simon.
The community of Labrie has produced a gem of an innovator and inventor whose inventions go far beyond the shores of this quaint and proud community. But who exactly is this inspiring young inventor?
Okay, my name is Carlos Noel. I'm a fisherman by profession. Well, I started fishing early in my life. Branched out into systems engineering, a lot of electrical work, electronics. I tried other fields, but they did not really drive me, so I dropped out. So I stuck with systems engineering, electricals, and electronics.
Callis recalled being drawn to this field from a very early age. His father was a power station operator, and on weekends and off days he remembers enjoying playing with old transformers, his father's tools, and reading his father's physics books. We ask him about his most treasured inventions to date.
The first project that really impacted me was the project that went to Nauru. I mean, I did the one in library, but actually going out of St. Lucia, not even regional, going international, it was a lot to me. It meant a lot that I could actually do something that could help a nation.
To turn his love for invention into a business, Carlos has partnered with PR and brand manager Laura Japierre, also from Labrie, to form the company called Invictus Inc. Invictus creates solutions for alternative energy and innovation. Jean-Pierre serves as the operations manager for Invictus.
What we try to do at Invictus is to create local solutions for global challenges. So of course, the world would be our market, our marketplace. I try as much as possible to get Carlos out there in the public domain, get him interviewed by various media houses, get his name out there, get his product out there. And through that we get people who are now interested and they take to the bait and they call us.
Jean-Pierre and Noel have also recognized the important role of innovation to a country's level of competitiveness and productivity.
I mean, innovation is a driving force behind society. I mean, if it wasn't for innovation, we would still be riding horses, probably still have candles in our homes, probably more fatalities. So it's really, really important for survival of humanity.
Any government, any people, any nation who downplays innovation, they're wasting their time and they're on a slippery slope to nowhere, because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about.
Carlos encourages young inventors and innovators to have a strong belief in themselves.
One thing that we really fall short of is we think everything is easy. Easy is never an option. If it's difficult, trust me, it must be worth it. Keep pushing and just believe in yourself.
The National Competitiveness and Productivity Council salutes the work of this young innovator and his company Invictus Inc. from the community of Labrie.
I'm innovative.
For the National Competitiveness and Productivity Unit, Glenn Simon reporting.
The FRC is planning to host a vigil to commemorate the devastating fire of the 25th of March 2018 that gutted the structure of the FRC housed at Mount Pleasant. The executive director of the FRC, Hilary LaForce, lamented the history and cultural artifacts and documents lost in that tragic fire.
St. Lucians the world over will not soon forget the moment they heard about the destructive fire that engulfed the Folk Research Center at Mount Pleasant on March 25, 2018. Fast forward 1 year later, and remnants of pain can still be heard in the voice of Executive Director of the Folk Research Center, Hilary LaForce, as he reminisced on pieces of St. Lucia's cultural heritage that remains lost forever.
Talking about the destruction, it was, very heartbreaking. 45 years of research and documentation went up in smoke. Lots of information that young people would never know about on all the cultural aspects of St. Lucia. For example, there's something called Kele. I'm sure that you probably never heard about it. Kele came exactly from Africa. We had some people from Baboro, they call them Lemjine, who actually performed that ritual where they had the sacrifice of a sheep and so on. And that was recorded both in film and in print. All this is gone.
Rising from the ashes, the Folk Research Center will commemorate the occasion by holding a vigil. The activity will allow for reflection by members of the board and management of the FRC.
It's 1 year since that disaster at Mount Pleasant, where fire gutted the headquarters of the FRC. As a result, we're planning a vigil today on the site, next to the ruins that was destroyed.
The vigil will run from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. and all members of the public are invited. The Folk Research Center will also use the occasion to initiate its rebuilding fund. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
You're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News. Up next, sports news with Tennyson Glasgow.